In this video, we're going to break down the design of this backyard batting cage that's made entirely out of simple materials. Doesn't require any welding or anything too complex. It's all made with simple tools and simple materials. And in this video, we're going to break down the design and highlight some different techniques and things that were used so that you can customize this exactly for your space and needs. This was shared a little while ago in our community, and this is made with off-the-shelf EMT electrical conduit, which if you don't know, you can find in the electrical aisle of your local hardware and home improvement stores. And the fittings that we're going to highlight and talk about are Maker pipe connectors that we manufacture in upstate South Carolina, and you can use those to build all kinds of awesome projects that are completely custom and unique to you. And like I said, just requires hand tools to cut empty conduit. You just need a handheld tubing cutter, and then to assemble Maker pipe connectors, you just need a 5mm hex wrench. So with just those couple of hand tools, you can build a backyard batting cage just like this one. And so we're just going to go through and talk about the different design elements of this. As I mentioned, this is made entirely with 3/4 inch trade size EMT conduit and 3/4 inch Maker pipe connectors. And here we can see the frame all finished with the foam on the tubes with the netting in place, and it looks really awesome. And it looks like it's just in a kind of a gravel area in this backyard, which is really awesome. You can customize the dimensions of this. Just use that handheld tubing cutter to cut this down to size to fit the exact space that you need. This one is 10 by 10 by 35 foot, and we've seen plenty of others in the community that are 50 foot long, 40 foot, and just different dimensions based on unique spaces. But you can customize this, and I'll show you the connectors that were used, and you could expand this design, you could shorten it, you can widen it, and you'll just use some of the techniques that we're going to talk about. And something I recommend doing is finding a net, because if you're building this to save money instead of buying a prefab solution, then I would look for a secondhand net somewhere, or even a brand new net that you can find that fits the space you need, and then build your frame based on the net you have. That'll make it a little bit easier to save money and make it easier to build the frame, because once you have the frame in place, it can be harder to find a net. So just start with the net and go from there, and then we'll talk about the foam and different things as we go through. But let's just go ahead and break down the design of this, and let's look at a couple more photos here. We can see, I think this one will be a good one to kind of talk about the design. We can clearly see the conduit and connectors in this, and of course it's got the net on the outside, but we're just going to focus on the connectors first. So essentially this is a pretty standard rectangular box that we see pretty often with projects like this, kind of similar to what we'd see with like a garden enclosure or a desk or a shelf. And pretty much there's a lot of different builds that kind of use this rectangular design, this technique. And so this is really common even if you're not building a batting cage, or even if you do build a batting cage first and then realize you need something inside, you might find conduit connectors useful for other projects. And you can use this design because it's really common to see this kind of box shape and rectangular design. But we're just going to go through and add all these verticals in here. I think that's all of them. And the way the Maker pipe connectors are designed, you don't have to weld. They just rely on friction, and they clamp around the conduit. And so that actually allows you to do some really easy building techniques and incorporate some easy building techniques whenever you're doing projects like this. And that is the ability to have a through connection in all of the Maker pipe connectors, or most of them at least. And so the main connectors that are on the outside are the 90-degree connectors, which we'll see in the middle there, at the very top, and then middle on this side, and then the very top. And what that connector does is it allows you to have that through piece of conduit through the top, and in the middle here, it's just running continuously through that connector, but at the very top, it's sitting flush. So the piece of conduit is kind of flush with the top of the connector, but then it also allows you to have terminating pieces of conduit. So it terminates inside that piece of, or inside that 90, and then goes all the way to the other side, and then terminates in this 90-degree connector. It's the exact same thing here on this middle piece that is reinforcing the frame from just one side to the other, as we can see there. And then it's going to be the exact same thing on the opposite end. I'm going to try to keep this from, kind of getting too cluttered with too many marks on it, but it's pretty much just mirrored on the exact, or on the other side the exact same way. But essentially, you just use those 90s to add these pieces of conduit between the two outer verticals on the very end, and then also to send verticals over here to this next connection. And then the same thing here in the middle, where you've got this here, and then that there terminating. And so essentially, that is the other type of connection you'll run into. So you've got the through connection, and you've got these terminating connections, and those just clamp onto the conduit. But essentially here, just got the 90 in the middle, 90 at the top, same thing on the other side of there, and then mirrored on the complete opposite end of the frame as well. But here we're going to run into our first connector that's different. This is going to be the T connector, which works similarly. It has a through connection and a terminating pipe, but it just connects 2 pieces of conduit together, not 3. So that's what you use if you're doing this kind of T joint, or you're making kind of a 90-degree elbow. You'll use that T connector, which is what's being used there. And then at the very top, this is a really key component that's going to come in handy whenever you're building frames like this. Because the empty conduit is found in 5 or 10 foot lengths, you're going to need to extend the frame in a lot of projects, especially batting cages. And so what you're going to have to do is kind of extend and add on pieces of conduit and kind of break up to get the length that you need for this. And so here we've got the this short piece coming out and then going to this other connector here, and this is going to terminate again like we talked about. And this connector here is going to be the 4-way connector. And what this allows you to do is have that vertical green piece of conduit going all the way up through the middle, and then it has the 2 other pieces of conduit that are terminating in it. And it's very similar to the 90 in that way, except now we have an additional piece of conduit that's running to the other side. So can't really see exactly the connection really close up, but essentially there's a piece of conduit running continuously to the other side to another 4-way connection, and that is joining 4 pieces of conduit together, and that allows you to add a vertical, extend your frame, and brace to the other side, which is really crucial for projects like this. And pretty much you'll just take that same design and you can extend this frame forever in that way. You just keep adding verticals, keep adding 4-way pieces of conduit, and you'll just continue to extend the frame and brace it as you go down. And so we got a 4-way there, 4-way there, and then we're back to the 90-degree connector to cap this off and kind of mirror it on the other side. And then down here we've got a 180-degree connector. And so this is a little bit different than what we'll see on the opposite side, because this is made to be the entryway. This is kind of the doorway into the batting cage, so that's a little bit different. But this is another T connector here. And so we've got that piece of conduit terminating there and extending to that 90-degree frame as we got there. And then that is going to be kind of, actually, is there one more vertical? Oh yeah, so we've got this connector here, which is going to actually be similar to the 4-way connector, except this one's only going to join 3 pieces of conduit, kind of similar to the 90, except this is kind of a straight connector. So you've got the vertical piece of conduit there, and then it allows 2 pieces of conduit that are kind of split in 2 and then joined together. So you've got 3 pieces, and that is the 180-degree connector. That is another connector option that's similar to the 4-way, but of course you don't want this piece of conduit in the 4-way extending out and going in the middle of your batting cage. So the 180 is perfect to kind of still do what you need to do, which is extend the frame and add that vertical. So between the 4-way, the 90, and the 180 and the T, you can build a lot of frames and build rectangular boxes for garden enclosures and different things like that. But it's pretty much the exact same thing on the opposite side, except there's no entryway door. So it's just pretty much all 180-degree connectors all the way down, and those are just being used to add those cross braces in between the sections of the frame there. It's just going all the way down and then terminating just like that. So that is pretty much all you need to build a batting cage like this, or like I said, a garden enclosure, or different rectangular frames. But something that's good to keep in mind is bracing your build. So this is 10 foot wide, 10 foot tall, and usually we recommend that you have some sort of brace every 4 or 5 feet. And so a technique that's incorporated into this that's really useful is 45-degree bracing. So we can see there's a series of 45-degree connectors being used on the frame, and those are just similar to the T that just joins 2 pieces together. And then that allows you to essentially just have this piece of conduit grabbing onto that horizontal bar and then going down and grabbing onto the vertical bar, and it just terminates in there and adds a 45-degree brace. And so there is a ton of those all over the frame, as we can see, pretty much just on the ends really, just 4 on each end, just to kind of add some 45-degree bracing and add some support to the frame. And that's really good because that'll support the net really well, and that's pretty much the end of the frame. You can kind of use those same techniques as I mentioned and customize it for your space and extend it, and it's pretty easy to customize a design like this. And then of course you just want to finish it off with your net. So if you do what I recommend, which is find a net first, then you can just drape that over it and secure it with zip ties or ball bungees or metal zip ties, whatever you need to do to secure that. There's a lot of different options for that. And then something else you'll want to do is put some foam around the tubes. And so we see people commonly just use some of the pipe insulation that you can get off the shelf. It's pretty inexpensive and works really well, fits over conduit really nicely. You can also, if you want to save even more money, just get some Dollar Tree pool noodles, and you can secure that on the outside of the frame. And then we've seen people just wrap it with tape, and add this really nice foam on the outside of the frame, which helps reduce some of the ricochet if a baseball hits it. So that's something that we see a lot of people do, which is really awesome. But that's pretty much it. It might seem complicated, but with just those few different connector designs, you can customize this and build this exactly how you need it. And I recommend checking out the MakerPipe mini connectors. You can get some of those, and you can customize the design and kind of learn how this would go together in a full-size build. And so I'll link those down below. And you can also check out the MakerPipe Masterclass, which is a complete walkthrough of how to build a project with MakerPipe and Conduit. You can check that out in the description as well, and that'll help you with any project, whether it's a batting cage or something in your garden or around the home. But hopefully this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.